Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices.
On a windy day, I feel the trees sway.
About a year ago, we had a special guest on the show, a forest bathing guide. That means a guide who walks with you in the outdoors and helps you connect with nature, pointing out sights and scents and things like that. Melanie Choukas-Bradley is the author of The Joy of Forest Bathing. Reconnect with wild places and rejuvenate your life. Now, in this pandemic, while we're spending more time indoors, we decided to call Melanie to ask her for some advice. How do you get your nature fix when you're stuck inside so much of the time?
I'm in my backyard, just outside of Washington, D.C., doing a little forest bathing. The sun is just coming up. The grass is still damp with dew. And it's one of the first warm days after our very cool spring.
We'll get Melanie's expert advice. In fact, she has a new book out called Resilience, Connecting with Nature in a Time of Crisis. Melanie, welcome back to American Voices.
Thank you so much, Senator Bradley. It is such a pleasure to talk with you again. Although I'm sorry, it's under these circumstances of what we're dealing with now. And I know you did a forest bathing exercise after our last talk where you went out next to a fountain and cupped your ears and heard the water flow.
Absolutely.
What do you think you might do in your backyard?
Well, I'm in an apartment, so I don't have a backyard right now, but hopefully someday. I've been in this apartment for 65 days without going outside. So I miss nature. I miss the wind, the sun, and the smells of nature. So hopefully this will be over soon.
I bet you do. Oh, hopefully it will. Do you have ways of connecting with nature indoors?
I do. I have windows, sun without the ultraviolet.
Oh, gosh.
So what have you seen and heard about how not being outside has affected people?
So what I've found is that although people are staying very close to home, that they are discovering the beauty and wonder around them, right around them. One of my friends, she's on a 10th floor of an apartment building in a very densely populated part of the city, and she's made friends with a pair of pigeons that come and visit her every day on her balcony.
A pair of what?
Pigeons.
Oh.
Pigeons. Most people don't pay much attention to pigeons. She's made friends with them. So I've heard a lot of stories like that have really touched me. They're finding natural beauty and ways of connecting with nature right close to their homes. And if you can get to know a wild place right near where you live that you think of as your wild home, you develop a relationship with that place, very much like a relationship with a person. And I feel it can be every bit as rewarding.
And over time, it goes deeper?
It does go deeper, very much like with a person.
So it's being aware of your surroundings, right? You don't have to go to a national park to watch a bee.
Exactly. Even if you have houseplants, there have been studies that have been done in Japan that spending time with a houseplant is good for your mental and physical health. If you can just see outside your windows and watch the clouds, watch the birds, just find nature wherever you can.
So are there signs people should know or symptoms of being nature deprived?
Oh, that's such a good question, Senator Bradley. I think we all know that feeling of, when you start to feel anxious, you start that ruminative thinking, where you're turning negative thoughts over in your head. If you can find something beautiful to look at, if you can find a twig with buds that are bursting, a rose blooming, a bee buzzing by, anything that is part of nature and brings you outside of your own head, that is very beneficial to your mental health. The other thing about it is, as human beings, we're dealing with this very intense crisis all over the world. It's comforting to connect with life. It helps you to see that we're all part of the fabric of life on Earth.
What about watching nature online?
Watching any kind of nature program that you can find, however you view it, is wonderful. Any way that you connect with nature, I feel, is beneficial and is very comforting at this time.
So I understand you're doing something. You're going to give some forest bathing tours online. Can you tell us about that?
I am, yes. I think the way it's going to work is I will just be in my backyard and we'll have a Zoom call. It will just be a call. It won't be visual. And people will call in from wherever they are, and then I will guide them on a forest bathing walk. And if they're just in their backyard, as I will probably be, I'll give them simple guidance to connect with the sounds and the sights and the smells and, things they can touch right in their backyard.
Are you going to give a generic tour for everybody, or are you going to say, well, you're in the desert, this is what I'd look for, or you're in the forest, this is what I'd look for?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to have to do is be general enough that it will apply wherever you are.
I'm at my home just outside of Washington, D.C., doing a little forest bathing in my own backyard. Wherever you are, I hope you can find a place close to home to connect with the beauty and wonder of nature. Maybe you'll look out your window and see some beautiful clouds rolling by on a spring afternoon. There's so much solace to help with anxiety and worry and uncertainty and all the things we're dealing with now.
Yeah, that's great and very important. And I think that you're making a real contribution. In your book, you also talk about Anne Frank and a tree that she saw from her window. And it's a very moving passage. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So there was a horse chestnut tree outside the annex in Amsterdam where Anne and her family were in hiding during World War II. And she wrote about this tree in her diary. She just saw it outside the window and she wrote about it. It brought her comfort.
So the tree was speaking to her.
Yes, it was. And she died in a concentration camp at the age of 15. When I was young, I read that diary over and over again. I think I had it memorized. This horse chestnut tree lived into the 21st century, and it blew over in a windstorm fairly recently, and they propagated several trees from the seed of the horse chestnut tree, and one of them is planted on the U.S. Capitol grounds. It was planted in 2014, and I lead tours there. I lead tours of the historic trees on the Capitol grounds periodically, and we've been watching on these tours, we've been watching this offspring of Anne Frank's tree grow up, and it's just very inspiring to stand there with the tree and think about its history and its connection with her.
Melanie, it's been terrific having you back on the show, and thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to try some of these tips about my backyard. I've been speaking with Melanie Choukas-Bradley. Her new book is called Resilience, Connecting with Nature in a Time of Crisis. To find out more, visit us on Facebook, and if you're able to take Melanie's advice and enjoy nature, post some pictures on our page of you in your backyard or wherever. It's American Voices with Senator Bill Bradley. Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.